Say, man, what will it take to be great? Are you gonna cut off those dirty websites or what? Are you gonna cut off those dirty websites or what? It's 1 a.m. I just finished doing my little circuit, man. Jump ropes, calf raises, stretching, wall sits. Finna go in the gym, work out. It's 1 a.m. This is my Friday workout. Got started a little early. What will it take to be great? When I cut off those dirty websites, I realized that I had a lot more strength in my tank, a lot more power than I thought that I used to have. When I was still suffering of my lust, I was still, getting up, going to the gym, being disciplined, being diligent in that area. But I didn't carry that off in the other areas. I got my mic on my workout glove on that strap 'cause I forgot my little hat. You feel me? But where I'm at now, I understand the importance of what I was doing to become great. I understood the importance of the discipline that I had to show myself, the work that I had to put in, new levels, new devils. I was struggling so much with watching those dirty websites that I felt like I was just losing myself. I was deteriorating. It felt like I was dying on the inside. I've shed many tears on the inside. I've even shed some on the outside once regarding this situation. And I understand that who I've become to be, who God has allowed me to grow into today, is a complete better and different version of who I used to be. I never thought it would be like this. I'm outside at 1 a.m. in the fog, and I love the fog. But I'm out here at 1 a.m. about to work out for the day, for the upcoming day. You know what I'm saying? And it's because I have that drive and that grit to get up and do what needs to be done. I've developed the confidence from my tribulations in the past. You feel me? And I'm overall blessed. Well, I'm trying to remain in that spirit of being blessed. I'm trying to remain in the spirit of being gratitude that I'm able to get up and push through, because the past that I had watching dirty websites, it really kept me in bondage. It kept me in mental slavery, and it truly felt like mental jail. You know, as Paul was delivered by an angel out of prison, I was delivered out of that shackle because it truly was hurting me. It truly was hurting me, and I was doing it to myself. But I didn't understand how much damage that I was truly doing until I got out the gym and I look back at hindsight and I'm like, dang, I was really putting myself through it. Nobody was making me do this but me. It was because I taught myself a bad habit and then it festered into an addiction, you know. And all lust and all our sins are really just addictions that we haven't gotten over. But I had to subjugate myself in the word. I had to show myself more approved. But God saw me praying, crying on the inside, begging, asking for help and strength, even though I still wanted to do what I still wanted to do. And eventually it caught up, it leveled out. And then I was born, quote unquote, what they say, born again. I was washed away. It was washed out my desires. The lust that I had for watching dirty websites genuinely just left my desires. Didn't even want to do it anymore in my core. And that's when I stopped. It's been 3 years since I've even looked at a dirty website, been compelled to type those characters into my search bar. It's been 3 years since I've deleted history based off what I watched, you know, and you never truly forget those days. You never truly forget. There are some stars who I used to watch whose names I still remember, and it's a shame. One day maybe they won't, you know, they'll be washed out of my brain. But even the fact that I can still remember their names if I really want to sit and think about it, it doesn't necessarily bug me or bother me, but it just goes to show that our past definitely matters and it will catch back up to us. You'd be a fool to not judge a book by its cover, but you'd also be a fool not to read certain books as well. You know, in terms of certain sins, when you figure out that people may struggle with them, you don't have to look at them with contempt, but it's wise to keep your distance, right? That is judging a book by its cover. Because if you have an axe and you're running to me, the cover is that you have an axe and you're running to me. I'll be a fool to stand there and be like, oh, I wonder what he wants to talk about. You feel me? So when I was becoming a shell of a man and I was becoming the man that looked disciplined, who people was proud of on the outside, but on the inside, I was so stressed with what I was dealing with. My cover looked great, but the inside I was dirty. You know what I'm saying? But and had I been judged based off my cover, people would have thought, okay, ain't nothing gonna be wrong with this brother. And, I wouldn't necessarily put my sins onto others as well. But me being the user internally, it would just hurt. and I wouldn't really feel at peace. I was thinking about sex too much. It was always on my mind, and it started to really take control of me, but I allowed it. We allow these things to take control of us due to our application with the devil. And you have to understand what it means to repent, to follow, to turn away from your sin and not to return back, because the more times you go back and forth, you might just lose confidence in yourself, and you might turn your mind over to being reprobate, and you don't want to be reprobate, So I had to make sure that I was able to propel myself past what I thought was putting pressure onto my life, and I pleased the Lord that way. And that's why I was blessed with the ability to not even go back to my vomit. As a dog licks his vomit, I didn't want to be that dog. I didn't want to be shameless. I wanted to be shame fast, And overall, where I'm at, I feel like I've done a remarkable job of letting go of that. I've done great of talking about that testimony unto others. And, it's more motivation for me to stay within the spirit the best way I know how, chip away and get better at it day by day without being a hypocrite. Sometimes I really did feel like a hypocrite. I was a hypocrite most of my life, probably, but where I'm at now, I'm trying my best to work against that in ways. I'm trying to make sure I still feel convicted. I'm gracious that I do feel convicted, and it's just a blessing to be able to say that with my honest truth, to know I'm not lying to the camera, nor am I lying to myself. I woke up feeling a little delirious today because I only had like 4 hours of sleep. I went back, I prayed, woke up, prayed. I went back into bed, laid for a second, and I said, nah, I'm up. Usually I get up an hour and a half later, but I got up an hour and a half earlier just because I got up an hour and 45 minutes naturally. So I said, hey, I'm up. I'll be more up now since I woke up naturally versus I go to sleep and I'm forced to wake up from an alarm. You know what I'm saying? So I just stayed up, But in terms of battling those dirty websites, it was shackles that I allowed uh, myself to have the strength to break free from those, from the presence and essence of God. You know, I genuinely believe if I didn't have God, or if I didn't care to acknowledge God, the presence, the spirit, the knowledge of, I don't know if I would have ever fallen away from those sins. I really feel like I probably would have still just been like that guy that was struggling with the sins, not knowing where to turn. I probably would have got worse, but I'll never know because I wasn't that type of person. I was a person that was praying and crying on God, but still turning away from God. I was that person. So I was being a biblical hypocrite, damn near really a Gentile for real, but I had to turn away from that, and because I did that, that's the reason why I made my YouTube. My first video on YouTube is like first day semen retention. It was like 4 years ago, right? And it's just amazing that how far I've come, how more patient I've gotten. I'm still working on patience in all aspects of my life. But I've really made a remarkable turn, and people, people who are meeting me, they're really meeting the best version of me, and I can tell by the way that I come off to people, and the people that avoid me as well. These are all indicators of who you've grown to become. Because when I was more so a friend to the world, when I was more of a people pleaser, when I was in the mix having fun doing this and that, I had so much more people around me. I had multiple friend groups. Now I don't have any friend groups. I have brothers that are like less than the fingers on my hand, aside from my intermediate family, and but when it comes to friend groups, I don't have that, and it is what it is. It is what it is. I ain't tripping because I understand that the company that I have now, the small company that I have now, the company that I'm going to have in the future, Lord's will, is going to be so much greater because I'm bonding with them based off intellect. No, I wouldn't say intellect. I'm bonding with them based off spirit and soul versus vicinity and vibes. And had I not desensitized myself away from watching dirty websites, I don't know where I'd be at. I wouldn't be looking at life through that lens. I wouldn't be so simplistic for my instructions towards the life that I've grown into living. So if you come across this video, shalom, APTTMH, APTTMH, APTTMH. God bless the sons of Abraham. God bless the daughters of Sarah. God bless God's chosen people, the Israelites. You feel me? Stay away from them dirty websites, or else.